Thank you, Presiding Officer. And like others, let me thank Murdo Fraser for the opportunity to highlight a very important initiative that's been going for 10 years, and we wish it to continue for many years. Like many others, I have street pastors in my constituency. Earlier this year, I attended the induction of new pastors in Peterhead. Now, I have not, like some others, been out in the street with the street pastors, but I've certainly been out on the Saturday night with the police on 3 occasions for approximately 5 hours in most cases. So I know the environment into which the street pastors are going. And talking to street pastors, one of the interesting things that I've heard from them is that actually the mere presence of the pastors on the street changes the character of what's going on in the street. Now, in a place like Peterhead, you might think carefully why that should be so. Well, of course, it's a population of some 19,000, but the odds are that the street pastor knows your mum. So being able to walk up to somebody who's just, a little bit off the proper behaviour and saying, well, I call your mum, you're obviously needing a wee bit of help, is enough sometimes to just nudge people back to proper behaviour. And of course, it's a very practical thing. I mean, what we're talking about is practical, polite, pastoral support from people. Getting support is the very meaning of the word pastoral. And looking at the Facebook page of the Peterhead Street Pastors for last Saturday, very simple things on the Facebook page, huge following. Remember to wrap up warm. The temperature is going to be 1 to 2 degrees. Remember to have a plan for getting home, a taxi, somebody coming to pick you up. And remember that the pavements around the town centre are very slippery. Now, nothing in that is anything other than quite obvious. But it sometimes is precisely the sort of thing that those who are focused on having, quote, a good night out may neglect. So it's that practical advice and practical help that the pastors are giving that will make a real difference to people in places like Peterhead. And Peterhead is a very, very diverse community. The Academy has 28 languages in it. So there's plenty of opportunity for confusion and misunderstandings between different parts of the communities. The presence of the street pastors in the street at a weekend in particular can help deal with, can help manage, can help identify people who are vulnerable and connect them to support and sources of help. It's interesting to read what some other people say about it. The Spectator magazine, I think, put it really rather well. They described the street pastors as weirdly effective unworldliness. In other words, they were saying, this is pretty good stuff, but we don't quite know how it works, and it's not quite in our normal experience. But I think it's actually a return to the roots of much of what Christian faith is about. It's about supporting other people. It's about being non-judgmental. Now, my grandfather was probably one of the judgmental ones. He was a member of the Independent Order of Rechabites and definitely would not have approved of the carousing and consumption of alcohol on a Saturday night. I know that he persuaded his nephew, who was in Lloyd George's government, to nationalise the one drinking den in Cromarty so that it would be brought under control. That doesn't really work in the modern world. What the street pastors are doing is highly personal, highly effective, and deserving of our continuing support. Presiding Officer.